In the gleaming heart of the city, Ava stood in the lobby of the high-rise, her heels clicking against the polished marble floor. The lobby buzzed with energy, a blend of rushing professionals and chatting tourists. She adjusted her blazer and checked her reflection in a nearby glass panel, satisfied with the image staring back at her. But just as she was about to step into the elevator, she heard a voice behind her. Turning around, she saw a man in a simple gray suit. His dark hair was neatly combed, but his eyes were troubled. "I'm sorry to bother you," he continued, hesitating for a moment, "but I've been trying to figure out this elevator." Ava frowned slightly. She glanced at the elevator doors. She suggested, already feeling impatient. She had a meeting to get to, one that could change everything for her career. "No, I don't think so," he insisted. "I just don't think it's recognizing my access card." Ava brushed off his complaint. "I'm sure it'll." "You might just need to try again," she said, waving a hand dismissively before entering the elevator. The door slid shut and she exhaled, relieved to finally be alone. But she couldn't shake the feeling of his gaze on her as she ascended. She focused on straightening her thoughts for the upcoming meeting, the pitch that could propel her into the limelight. When the doors opened, she stepped out and walked briskly towards the conference room, the buzz of the crowd fading behind her. The meeting was intense, full of behind-the-scenes talk about the company's future. Ava's ideas flowed effortlessly, and as she looked around the room, she could see her colleagues leaning in, captivated by her vision. She felt invincible, like she was on the brink of something monumental. Finally, the meeting ended, and Ava was congratulated on her performance. She felt a rush of pride as she walked back to the lobby, her mind spinning with dreams of promotions and glory. But when she reached the elevator, she was surprised to find the same man from earlier pacing anxiously in front of it. Ava asked, trying to sound sympathetic despite her irritation. He exclaimed, his expression almost desperate, "I don't understand why it won't let me up." With a sigh, Ava searched through her handbag, half considering helping him. But the day was already dragging on and she wasn't in the mood for complications. "You should probably just go to reception and ask for help," she suggested coolly. He looked defeated. "I appreciate it, but I really need to reach him right away." In that moment, Ava felt a flicker of empathy. Perhaps he was more than just a man in a gray suit, but the weight of her own aspirations pulled her back. "I'm sorry, but I really can't stay," she said before slipping into the elevator. The doors closed, cutting off his desperate pleas. As she descended, she couldn't help thinking about how absorbed people could be in their own worlds. Even for a moment, a tiny voice nagged at her. But she pushed it aside and focused on her plans for the evening, a fancy dinner with a potential investor, the perfect chance to network. Hours later, she returned to the building, feeling the glow of success still warming her heart. As she walked towards the elevators, something caught her attention. A small screen beside the elevator door flashed a list, showing the names of people with access to the private floors. Names she recognized, and among them was his name. Her breath hitched in her throat. Why did that name sound so familiar? Unable to resist, she pulled out her phone and quickly searched for him. When the results appeared, a jolt of realization struck her. Nathaniel Shaw owned one of the biggest tech companies in the country. This was not just some random guy, he was a powerhouse, a name synonymous with innovation. Anxiety swirled in her chest. "I dismissed him," she thought, guilt lacing her mind. Before she could dwell on her thoughts, the elevator opened and she stepped in, her mind racing. What would happen if he reported her? Would she be seen as rude, unprofessional, or worse, could she lose her chance at a future in the company? Just then the elevator dinged and she found herself back in the lobby again. Nathaniel was gone, but the weight of the moment pressed hard on her heart. Ava could still picture his distressed expression. She stepped out of the elevator, feeling the need to reconcile her earlier actions. Rushing outside, she scanned the street, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. Her instinct told her to do the right thing, to apologize, maybe even offer to help, but the bustling crowd and the city lights drowned out her resolve. Finally, she spotted him near a coffee shop, his back to her. With newfound determination, she hurried toward him, the rhythm of her heartbeat echoing her footsteps. She called out. He turned, his eyes wide with surprise. He raised an eyebrow, clearly confused. "I'm Ava, from earlier." Her voice was sincere, and she could feel the warmth returning to her cheeks. His expression softened slightly. "Thank you." A wave of relief washed over Ava. "I can only imagine. I didn't realize how important your matter was." As Nathaniel regarded her, she sensed a distance in his eyes that made her question whether her apology would matter at all. He replied, his tone neutral. Nathaniel glanced away, hands deep in his pockets. "To be honest, I'm here on urgent business with my team." His gaze flicked back to her. The vulnerability in his response struck Ava deep. This was a man who had a burden, someone who did not have the luxury of time to dwell on a brief encounter. But it also struck her that she had a chance right now, an opportunity to connect with someone who could take her career to new heights. She asked, trying to keep the conversation alive. His demeanor shifted. She could see a spark of passion ignite his features. An innovative way to connect businesses with emerging talents. His excitement was contagious. Ava leaned in, eager to hear more. "That sounds incredible. Thank you, but I've been worried about the logistics. Getting the right team in place has been challenging," he admitted, sincerity spilling into his tone. I know how that feels, she responded, feeling an undeniable connection growing between them. They talked for what felt like hours, sharing ideas and experiences. The once closed-off Nathaniel slowly warmed up to Ava, the conversations flowing effortlessly. With every detail he shared, she felt more inspired. In return, she shared her vision for the future and how she believed real connections could shift personal dynamics. Finally, as dusk settled around them, Nathaniel said, "You've got a great mind, Ava." "Absolutely," she replied, her heart racing with a blend of excitement and hope. They exchanged contact information, and as they parted, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was the start of something special. The universe had thrown them into the same place at the same time for a reason. Walking back to her apartment that evening, Ava reflected on the events. She had brushed him off when she first saw him, but now, having taken the time to connect, her world felt richer. She realized how easy it was to overlook the big picture in the hustle of daily life, to forget that every person holds a story, a struggle, and often the potential to change our lives. In her climb towards success, each connection mattered. With that thought as her compass, Ava smiled, embracing the countless opportunities waiting just outside her front door, reminding herself that they might be just one conversation away. The elevator door slid open with a soft ding, revealing a sleek, mirrored interior that reflected the excitement on Ava's face. She stepped inside, ready to ascend to the world that held her dreams, but as the doors closed, a voice called out from behind her. "Wait," Ava glanced over her shoulder. A man in a rumpled suit rushed towards her, his tie flapping in the wind. His expression was a mix of desperation and determination. "Sure," she said, pressing the button to keep the doors open. He slipped inside just as the doors began to shut again, panting slightly. "Thanks, no problem," Ava replied, already focusing on her own agenda. She didn't care much for small talk. She centered her thoughts on the big pitch ahead, the one she had prepared for weeks. As the elevator began to ascend, the man cleared his throat. "I'm Nathaniel, by the way, just moved to this building." "Ava," she said, eyes fixed on the screen counting up the floors. "I've been trying to get to the penthouse today, but this darn elevator won't recognize my card," he said, his frustration bubbling beneath the surface. She flashed him a polite smile but shrugged off his complaint. "Maybe it's just a fluke. We'll figure it out," she replied, barely paying attention. The elevator chimed and the doors opened, revealing the plush corridor leading to her meeting room. "Good luck, Ava," Nathaniel said as she stepped out. "Yeah, you too," she said absent-mindedly, and the doors closed behind her. The meeting room buzzed with energy, her colleagues already seated around the polished table, eager to hear her ideas. With a quick breath, she launched into her presentation. The room fell silent as her words wove dreams of innovation and success. She felt powerful, her ideas sparking interest among her peers. But as she spoke, a nagging thought pushed its way into her mind. She recalled the man in the elevator, his earnest eyes, his visible concern. She brushed it aside, focusing instead on the applause when she finished. As the meeting wrapped up, she felt a surge of triumph. This was her moment. She had captured the attention of decision-makers, and for a split second she allowed herself to believe that she was untouchable. Later, as she walked back to the lobby, her thoughts still swirling with excitement, she caught sight of a digital screen near the elevators. It displayed names, those with private access to the upper floors. Intrigued, she stepped closer. And there it was, Nathaniel Shaw. Her heart skipped a beat. The name rang a bell. Nathaniel Shaw, the tech entrepreneur who'd made headlines for his groundbreaking innovations. She took a step back, her mind racing. She had brushed off a titan of industry. Panic twisted in her stomach. What if he reported her lack of professionalism? What if her chance for advancement hung in the balance? She had been too caught up in her aspirations to consider who she was speaking to. Just then she spotted Nathaniel standing nearby, still looking frazzled. This time, instead of avoiding him, she felt a surge of determination. It was time to right her wrong. She called out. He turned, a look of surprise on his face. "Ava, I just saw your name on the list." "I had no idea," he shrugged, a modest smile on his lips. "Just a title." Something shifted in her. "It's more than that. I brushed you off earlier without even knowing who you were." He seemed taken aback but softened quickly. "It happens. I know the hustle." "You're right," she said, feeling a wave of empathy wash over her. "But if you're trying to get to the penthouse, maybe I can help." His eyes lit up with curiosity. "Really?" They stepped toward the elevator together, an unspoken bond forming as they discussed their ambitions. She shared her vision for merging tech with innovative marketing strategies, and he leaned in, surprisingly interested. As they ascended to the penthouse, Ava could feel the walls of her previous dismissiveness crack apart. This was more than just an elevator ride. It was a connection, a bridging of two worlds. The doors opened, revealing a stunning view of the skyline, a panorama bathed in the warm glow of sunset. Nathaniel's team was already there, gathered around a large conference table. One of his team members exclaimed. "Nathaniel was just telling us about your ideas," another chimed in. With a sudden rush of confidence, Ava shared her thoughts, her enthusiasm contagious. "I believe we can revolutionize mentorship through tech, connecting emerging talents with industry leaders." Nathaniel nodded, his eyes glimmering with excitement. That's exactly what we need right now. If we can combine your vision with our platform. As they brainstormed, the energy in the room ignited, ideas flying back and forth. Ava felt invigorated, her initial misjudgment melting away under the warmth of collaboration. But as they wrapped up, a voice broke through the excitement. "We're going to need a solid proposal, Nathaniel," one of the team members said, their expression serious. "Absolutely," Nathaniel replied, but his gaze shifted to Ava. "Let's work on it together." Ava could hardly believe what she was hearing. Her heart raced, a mix of thrill and fear weaving through her. This was it, the chance to make her mark. She said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions. As they continued to discuss logistics, Ava caught Nathaniel's eye. In that moment, she realized how easy it had been to dismiss him, to overlook the opportunity he represented. She had learned a lesson about respect and the value of connection, not just in the corporate world, but in life itself. After hours of discussions and laughter, they finally decided to break for the evening. Nathaniel turned to Ava. "You really brought something special today." "Me too," she said, sincerity wrapping her words. Walking back to the elevator, a sense of accomplishment washed over her. She had turned a mistake into something beautiful. In the grand scheme of life, every interaction mattered, every person possessed a unique story. As the elevator descended, she reflected on how easily she could have missed this chance. It was a reminder to stay open, to approach each day and every person with curiosity. When the doors opened to the lobby, she felt different. She knew she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. They could never touch the potential of meaningful connections. As she waved goodbye to Nathaniel, who was heading off to meet his team, she felt a surge of hope. In the days that followed, they collaborated tirelessly, their ideas merging and evolving. Their work led to breakthroughs, drawing the attention of industry leaders. But even more than that, Ava felt she had found a partner in Nathaniel, who had turned what could have been a moment of embarrassment into a thriving collaboration. Their joint efforts resulted in a pitch that took the industry by storm, showcasing a revolutionary approach to mentorship. When they finally presented to investors, the room was electric with anticipation. As they concluded their presentation, the response was overwhelming. Investors stood up, applauding their vision and innovation. Ava watched Nathaniel beside her, awe and relief mingling in his expression. In that moment, she realized the importance of every decision and every encounter. In the elevator that day, when she brushed off his concern, she had closed herself off to a remarkable opportunity. But by allowing herself to listen, she opened the door to limitless possibilities. As the applause echoed around them, Ava couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude, not just for the success they had achieved, but for the lesson learned. Every person left an imprint, every interaction shaped their paths. And just as quickly as the road to greatness had begun, she understood that up ahead lay even greater adventures waiting to unfold just beyond the horizon. All it took was a moment of vulnerability, a willingness to listen, and a reminder that sometimes it's those unexpected connections that lead to the most extraordinary journeys. She stepped into the luxurious lobby of the high-rise, her heart racing with anticipation. Ava adjusted her blazer, glancing at her reflection in the gleaming marble floor. This was it, the moment that could launch her career into a new orbit. She could already envision herself standing in front of the board, ideas flowing smoothly, the audience hanging onto her every word. The air buzzed with ambition, and she was ready to harness it. But just as she was about to press the button for the elevator, she heard a voice behind her. "Excuse me." Turning, she saw a man sprinting toward her, his tie flapping like a flag in the wind. He gasped, barely making it as the door slid shut. Ava hesitated, but then pressed the button to reopen the door. He slipped inside. "Thanks," he breathed, brushing a hand through his hair, clearly flustered. "Ava," she replied, offering a quick smile before turning her attention to the elevator panel. The numbers lit up as they ascended, counting the floors like a ticking clock. Nathaniel asked, his voice barely breaking the silence. "Yeah," she replied, already focusing on her upcoming pitch. "Big meeting. I'm trying to reach the penthouse too, but my access card isn't working," Nathaniel said, his brow furrowing with frustration. Ava half listened, her mind already racing ahead to her presentation. "I'm sure it's just a glitch." "You could try again later," she said dismissively, brushing off his concern. Then the elevator door opened again, revealing her destination. She chimed, stepping out. As the door closed behind her, Nathaniel's expression lingered in her mind for just a moment. She shook it off, reminding herself of her goals and ambitions. The meeting room awaited, and she felt the energy shift in her like an electric charge. Inside the room, her colleagues greeted her with eager smiles and nods. Ava took her place at the front, feeling the warmth of the spotlight. "Today I'm going to share a vision," she began, her voice steady and confident as she launched into her pitch. The room was captivated. She spoke about innovation, about tapping into unused potential in the market in ways that could transform their company's future. Her enthusiasm grew with each slide, each point echoing in her chest. She could almost feel the wheels of destiny turning. But then something unexpected tugged at her thoughts, Nathaniel's worry, his anxious eyes. It resided like a shadow in the back of her mind, and Ava brushed it away. "Focus," she reminded herself, driving deeper into her presentation. After hours of intense discussions, the meeting concluded with applause and affirmations. She felt invincible. As she walked back to the lobby, a surge of pride washed over her. This was her moment, her triumph. Yet as she passed by the elevator, something caught her eye: a digital screen displaying names of those granted access to the private floors. Curious, Ava leaned closer. The names flashed by, but then her heart sank. The name struck her like a bolt from the blue: Nathaniel Shaw, the tech mogul whose innovations had reshaped the industry. She realized with a rush of panic that she had dismissed someone far more important than she had thought. Could he be the same Nathaniel Shaw? A few clicks on her phone later confirmed it, sending a chill down her spine. She had brushed off a titan, a man whose success she had admired. What if he reported her lack of professionalism? Panic rose in her chest like a tidal wave. Just then she spotted Nathaniel near the entrance, still looking distracted. He was lost in thought, fingers tapping on his phone. She felt compelled to approach him, a mix of guilt and curiosity driving her forward. She called out, her voice slicing through the ambient noise of the lobby. He looked up, surprised. "Ava, I just saw your name on the list," she said, heart racing. "I didn't realize who I was talking to earlier." He blinked in surprise before a hint of a smile appeared. "No worries, it happens more often than you think in this industry." "It shouldn't," she insisted, her voice firm, recalling the unease she had felt when she first saw him. "We were trying to reach the penthouse, right?" He raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Absolutely. Let's try that elevator again," she said, the thought of making amends filling her with purpose. They stepped back to the elevator together, a new energy flickering between them. Ava pressed the button, and as they waited, she shared her thoughts on the changing face of technology, how critical it was for companies to embrace diversity, not just in product design, but also in their teams and leadership. "I couldn't agree more," Nathaniel said, visibly warmed by her passion. When the doors opened to the penthouse, the spacious room was filled with light and a panoramic view of the skyline. Nathaniel's team was already gathered, looking expectant as he walked in. One of his colleagues exclaimed, "What a surprise," another chimed in, a spark of curiosity igniting the room. As Nathaniel introduced her, Ava felt her confidence ebb and flow. She could see their intrigue growing, and in that moment she realized her earlier dismissal had not only been a missed opportunity for Nathaniel, but for herself as well. As the team began brainstorming ideas for their upcoming project, Ava listened closely. With every suggestion, she felt a chip in her walls of self-doubt. They were not just colleagues, they were collaborators, working together to propel their thoughts forward. Conversation flowed, ideas bouncing like playful sparks in the air. Ava found herself speaking up, sharing her vision for how technology could enrich mentorship experiences, crafting paths for budding talent. The room buzzed with enthusiasm and collaboration, a reflection of the vibrant ideas swirling around. But then, as one of Nathaniel's colleagues posed a problem, a silence fell over the group. "We need a concrete proposal," they said, their tone serious. Ava felt her heart race. This was it. She turned to Nathaniel, her voice steady. "If we pull our strengths together, I can help create that proposal." He met her gaze, a fire ignited in his eyes. "I'd love to have your perspective." The momentum in the room shifted again, a wave of renewed excitement washing over everyone. They stayed late into the night, crafting a strategy, writing lines that would speak to future investors. Ava felt more alive than ever, her creativity and ambition flowing freely. Hours passed like minutes, and finally they stepped back to evaluate their work. Nathaniel grinned, his enthusiasm infectious. Ava couldn't help but smile back. As they concluded their meeting, Nathaniel turned and said, "Thank you for stepping in today." With a mix of gratitude and excitement, Ava replied, "This wasn't just about the meeting for me, it's about connecting." He nodded, his eyes meeting hers with sincerity. Walking back to the elevator, Ava felt a sense of fulfillment, an understanding that every relationship, every encounter could transform into something meaningful if only she had the courage to dive deeper. The elevator doors slid shut, but she wasn't done yet. She asked, genuinely curious. "Launching this project, definitely," he said, leaning against the wall, "and seeing how we can build a network of mentors for young talent." Inspired by his vision, Ava felt invigorated. "Let's keep pushing boundaries." Days turned into weeks as they collaborated. Their partnership grew not only in the boardroom, but deepened into friendship, an unlikely bond shaped by their earlier encounter in the elevator. When the day came to pitch to investors, the air was electric with tension. Ava stood with Nathaniel, the anticipation palpable. She could feel her heart racing, but this time it was different. She was no longer just there for herself, she was part of something bigger. As they presented, Ava eloquently shared the proposal they had crafted, highlighting the innovative solutions they would bring to the mentorship landscape. Investors leaned forward, captivated by their vision. When they finished, a silence enveloped the room before applause broke out. The energy surged. Ava glanced at Nathaniel, their eyes locking with unspoken admiration. "We'll get back to you soon," one of the investors said, and Ava couldn't help but feel a swell of hope. Weeks later, the news came in and the team was ecstatic. Investors wanted to fund their project. As they celebrated, Ava realized she had not just gained a professional breakthrough, but a profound friendship. Standing at the balcony overlooking the city, Nathaniel turned to her. "Remember that day in the elevator?" She smiled, warmth flooding her heart. In that moment, Ava understood the power of connection, the beauty of being open to others and embracing the unexpected. As she looked out at the sunset painting the sky, she felt grateful not just for her success but for the journey that brought her there. The world was vast, with countless doors waiting to be opened, and sometimes all it took was one chance encounter to change everything. Ava knew this was just the beginning. With Nathaniel by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came next. The universe was wide open, and she couldn't wait to explore every inch of it. Ava stepped into the sleek lobby of the high-rise, the polished marble floor gleaming beneath her heels. The air buzzed with the energy of ambition, and she felt it in her bones. Today was a big day, her first major pitch to the board, a chance to elevate her career from mere hopes to tangible dreams. She could almost taste the victory as she approached the elevator. Just then, a frantic voice broke through the hum of chatter. "Wait." Turning on her heel, Ava saw a man sprinting toward her, his tie trailing behind like a banner of urgency. She hesitated, caught between her goal and the obligation to help. Somewhere deep down, she felt a pull to assist him, but the pressure of her own ambitions flooded her mind. She called, pressing the button to reopen the doors just in time. He slipped in, breathing hard, and gave her a brief nod of gratitude. "Thanks, I'm Nathaniel," he said, his voice tinged with anxiety. "Ava," she replied, barely glancing his way. She was already lost in her own thoughts, picturing herself in that boardroom, confidently delivering her ideas. As the elevator began its ascent, Nathaniel's eyes darted to the control panel. "I was trying to get to the penthouse, but my access card isn't working," he said, frustration creeping into his tone. Ava shrugged, dismissing his complaint. "Maybe it's just a glitch. We'll get there eventually," she said, her voice flat, already disinterested. The elevator chimed softly, the door sliding open to reveal her destination. "Good luck," she offered as she stepped out, already pivoting her focus back to her own ambitions. But as the door closed behind her, something in her gut twisted. Maybe it was the urgency in his voice, or perhaps a faint echo of guilt. She shook it off and stepped into the conference room, excitement swelling in her chest. The air was electric, filled with the hum of chatter as her colleagues prepared for the meeting. Ava took her place at the front, heart racing with anticipation. The agenda was packed, and she was eager to share the innovative ideas she had crafted. As the meeting began, she spoke with confidence, her voice clear and steady. Ideas flowed from her like a river, and the room fell silent, captivated by her vision for the company's future. She could see the nods of approval from the board members. Every word was a stepping stone toward success. But just as she started to feel invincible, a thought intruded her mind. Nathaniel, his frustration, the urgency in his eyes. It nagged at her like a small stone in her shoe, and she pushed it aside, unwilling to let anything distract her from the goal at hand. The meeting concluded to enthusiastic applause, and Ava basked in the glow of success, her heart swelling with pride. As she walked back toward the lobby, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about Nathaniel lingered in the air, a missed connection. Then as she reached the elevator, she spotted a digital screen displaying names of those with access to the private floors. Curiosity tugged at her, and she stepped closer, intrigued. Suddenly, her breath caught in her throat. The name leaped out at her like a punch to the gut. He was not just some random guy, he was a tech mogul, a name that had made headlines. Panic unfurled in her stomach, twisting tightly. She had brushed off a Titan, the very type of person who held the keys to success. As the realization sank in, a wave of dread washed over her. What if Nathaniel reported her dismissiveness? What would this mean for her burgeoning career? The air felt thick, and her heart raced. Ava's eyes darted around the lobby, and she spotted Nathaniel off to the side, still fumbling with his phone. Without a second thought, she rushed toward him, a surge of guilt propelling her forward. She called, her voice rising above the noise of the lobby. He turned, surprise flickering across his face. "Ava, I saw your name on the list," she blurted out, breathless. "I didn't realize who I was talking to earlier." Nathaniel raised an eyebrow, his initial surprise softening into a smile. "It's okay. Happens more than you'd think." Her heart raced at his easygoing nature, but guilt still gnawed at her. He looked intrigued, a spark igniting in his eyes. "Absolutely." As they walked back to the elevator together, Ava felt a shift. There was something electric in the air between them, a possibility of what could happen when two determined individuals crossed paths. Inside the elevator, she pressed the button for the penthouse, and as they rose, a conversation began to flow. They talked about ambitions, dreams, and the changing landscape of technology. Ava found herself engaging deeply, listening to Nathaniel's thoughts on mentorship in the tech industry, and she felt her own ideals aligning with his. When the elevator doors opened, the penthouse was a breathtaking sight. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed an expansive view of the city below, the skyline glowing in the late afternoon sun. Nathaniel's team was already gathered around a large conference table, eyes bright with anticipation. Ava, one of them exclaimed, recognition lighting up their face. Nathaniel introduced her, and as she stepped forward, she felt the energy in the room shift. This was different from her earlier meeting. This was collaboration, a chance to create something bigger than herself. As the brainstorming session began, ideas flew around the room. Ava recognized how her initial judgment had acted as a blinder. She leaned in, sharing her vision for a platform that connected talented individuals with mentors they admired. The room buzzed with excitement, every voice contributing, every idea building on the last, but as they dove deeper, uncertainty shadowed their discussions. "We need to prepare something concrete for the investors," one team member pointed out, frowning slightly. The comment hung in the air like a threat. Ava felt her pulse quicken, the realization that they were on the verge of something major stirring her adrenaline. "I can help with that," she said, her voice strong. Nathaniel turned to her, a look of appreciation in his eyes. They worked late into the night, surrounded by mountains of notes, graphs, and the glow of laptops. Collaboration ignited Ava's passions, and in that moment, she felt more alive than ever. Ideas manifested in the air, swirling with excitement, clarity emerging like morning light breaking through clouds. As hours passed, the anxiety shifted to exhilaration. They began crafting a proposal that showcased their combined strengths, their ideologies, and the powerful vision they shared for the industry. When they finally stepped back to examine their work, Nathaniel's grin was wide. "This is going to be revolutionary." His enthusiasm was infectious. "I'm just so glad we connected," Ava said, heart swelling with gratitude. As the night wore on and they finalized their pitch, Ava felt an unexpected sense of camaraderie growing between them. It had started with her dismissing Nathaniel's concerns, and now here they were, crafting a future together. Finally, when they concluded their preparations, Nathaniel turned to her with sincerity. She nodded, smiling back. "I couldn't have done it without you." Over the next few weeks, their connection deepened as they navigated the complexities of launching their project. Their nights were filled with brainstorming sessions, laughter, and moments of inspiration. They were not just colleagues anymore, they were partners. As the day arrived for their pitch to investors, Ava stood beside Nathaniel, nerves coursing through her. She felt the weight of the moment pressing in, a cacophony of expectations swirling around her. When they stepped in front of the investors, the tension in the room hummed with electricity. Their eyes locked, and Ava felt Nathaniel's steady presence beside her. She began to speak, her voice steady and confident, weaving their vision into a tapestry that painted the future of mentorship. The boardroom became a canvas, and as they presented, an incredible energy enveloped them. Investors leaned in, captivated by their shared vision and palpable passion. When they finished, a moment of silence fell, a breath held in anticipation. Then applause erupted, echoing off the walls. Relief washed over Ava, and Nathaniel's face lit up with joy. As they walked out, exhilarated, one of the investors approached them. "Congratulations, we want to support your project." Ava couldn't believe it. They had done it against all odds. Their dreams had transitioned from whispers to shouts. Days later, while celebrating their success, Ava found herself standing out on the balcony overlooking the city. The glow of the skyline reflected the warmth in her heart. Nathaniel joined her, leaning against the rail, a content look in his eyes. "I still can't believe how everything unfolded," he said, gesturing to the city. "And you were mine," Ava replied, feeling the deep connection they had nurtured. They stood in comfortable silence, absorbing the view. Ava understood now that every interaction mattered. She had brushed off Nathaniel's initial complaint, but in doing so, she had also brushed aside an opportunity to learn and grow. Connecting with him had opened new doors for not just their project, but for herself as well. "The universe has a funny way of intertwining paths," Nathaniel observed, breaking their reverie. Ava turned to him, smiling. "It really does." They stood for a while longer, letting the weight of their journey settle in. The city buzzed below, but in that moment everything felt perfect. Each step they had taken was a reminder that success was not just about individual ambition, but about the connections forged along the way. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Ava felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had come so far, but this was only the beginning. With Nathaniel by her side, she was ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. Ava understood that life was more than just a series of meetings and career goals. It was about the people who crossed our paths, the moments that challenged us, and the choices we made in response. Empowered and inspired, she knew she would carry these lessons forward. Beyond the horizon lay unlimited potential, waiting for the next adventure. Ava's heart raced as she stood in the lobby of the towering high-rise, the polished marble gleaming under the bright lights. She was about to ride the elevator up to the penthouse for what could be the biggest moment of her career. Hoping to impress the board, she glanced at her reflection in the glass panel. This was it, the day she would launch her career into a new orbit. She took a deep breath, but just as she pressed the up button, a voice called out from behind her. Wait, turning around, she saw a man sprinting toward her, his tie flapping wildly behind him. With a sigh, she pressed the button to keep the doors open. He rushed inside, breathless. He said, a nervous grin on his face. "Ava," she replied, barely making eye contact. Her mind was already racing ahead towards her meeting. Everything was riding on this. As the elevator began to ascend, Nathaniel looked at the control panel and frowned. "I'm trying to get to the penthouse too, but my access card isn't working," he said, frustration creeping into his voice. Ava glanced at him, feeling the weight of his anxiety. "Maybe it's just a glitch," she said dismissively. She was already drifting back into her thoughts, consumed by her own ambitions. Before she even had a chance to register his response, the elevator chimed and the doors slid open. Ava stepped out, confident strides carrying her towards the conference room. She called out over her shoulder, already feeling the buzz of positivity in the air. But as the doors closed, a sliver of guilt flickered in her chest. Maybe she should have been more compassionate. Shaking her head, she pushed the thought aside and focused on her goals. The meeting room was filled with energy as her colleagues gathered. She could feel their excitement, the air crackled with possibilities. Ava took her place at the front, rising to the challenge. She dove into her presentation, her words flowing like water. The board members leaned in, captivated by her vision to revolutionize their marketing strategy. However, in the midst of her powerful pitch, Nathaniel's face invaded her mind. His earnestness and urgency sharpened into clarity. Was she too quick to brush him off? But she dismissed the thought, locking her focus back onto the room filled with investors. When the meeting concluded, the applause washed over her like a warm tide. Ava felt invincible, the thrill of success coursing through her veins. She walked out of the room on top of the world, filled with the promise of what was to come. But as she made her way back to the lobby, her foot suddenly stopped. She spotted a digital screen displaying names of those with access to the private floors. Out of curiosity, she stepped closer, drawn in by the colorful lights flashing against the dark screen. Her breath caught in her throat. There it was, his name, Nathaniel Shaw. Panic ricocheted through her. This wasn't just any ordinary man. Nathaniel was a well-known tech innovator, someone whose ideas had transformed the industry. She had unknowingly dismissed a giant. What had she done? A chill ran down her spine. What if he reported her? What if this moment, her golden opportunity, vanished because she had been too focused on herself to notice the truth? In a rush of determination, she spun around, scanning the lobby for him. There near the entrance was Nathaniel, still looking flustered, tapping away at his phone. Without thinking, she quickly made her way over, adrenaline pushing her forward. She called, urgency lacing her voice. He turned and blinked, surprise dancing in his eyes. "Ava." "I just saw your name on the list," she said breathlessly. "I'm really sorry for brushing off your complaint earlier." His expression softened, pulling the tension in her chest slightly looser. He shrugged, but Ava could see something deeper simmering just below the surface. "No, really," she pressed. His curiosity piqued. Of course, they approached the elevator together. As she pressed the button, anticipation crackled between them. For a brief moment, they glanced at each other, and Ava felt a spark of connection, a sense that their paths were intertwined. "You seem really passionate about your work," Nathaniel said as they waited. "I am," Ava replied, feeling the excitement building within her. "I've got this vision that I want to share with the board. It's about integrating technology in new ways, changing how we market to our audience." "I like that." "We need fresh ideas," he nodded encouragingly. The elevator doors opened to the penthouse, revealing a stunning view of the skyline. Nathaniel stepped out first, and his eyes widened in awe. She followed, her heart racing not just from the surroundings but from the adrenaline coursing through her veins. As they entered, Nathaniel's team greeted them with anticipation, all eyes on Ava. This felt so different from earlier. She was no longer just an outsider. She was part of a team, and it felt empowering. "Hey, Ava," one of his colleagues said, beaming. As Nathaniel introduced her, she felt a rush of warmth in her cheeks. This was what she had wanted all along, to be recognized, to be taken seriously. They gathered around a large conference table, and Nathaniel began outlining the project. They were working on a new mentorship platform aimed at bridging the gap between newcomers and experienced professionals. Ava listened, captivated by the energy in the room. "Imagine a space where young talents can connect with industry leaders directly," Nathaniel said, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. As he spoke, Ava couldn't help but feel a surge of inspiration. She leaned in, eager to contribute. "And if we integrate gamification-like rewards for successful connections, people would be more engaged." The room lit up with excitement, ideas bouncing like popcorn. Each person's input layered on top of the other, building a mosaic of creativity that filled the air. Ava couldn't remember the last time she had felt so alive. This was collaboration at its finest, but as they discussed logistics, the atmosphere shifted slightly. "We need a solid proposal for investors," one team member cautioned, a serious tone creeping in. A wave of nervous energy washed over Ava. "I can help with that," she said confidently. Nathaniel smiled, gratitude written all over his face. "Yes. We can divide the tasks and pull our strengths." As the evening wore on, they worked through the proposal, the air thick with excitement and determination. Ava found herself invigorated, aware that her earlier dismissal of Nathaniel had almost cost her. What had started as a simple encounter in an elevator was transforming into a budding partnership. As the clock ticked toward midnight, they finally stepped back from their work. Nathaniel turned to her, eyes bright with enthusiasm. "This." Ava, her heart full, smiled back. In the following weeks, their collaboration deepened. Each late-night meeting allowed them to learn more about one another's lives. They shared stories, dreams, and fears, forging a bond that eclipsed the simple project they were working on. One evening, as they sat together surrounded by drafts and ideas, Nathaniel leaned back in his chair. "You know, I really appreciated your kindness when you came back to help me. It made me realize how important it is to truly see people," she replied, her voice soft. Their eyes locked, a silent understanding passing between them. It was a moment ripe with potential, revealing more than just a professional relationship. It hinted at something deeper. As D-Day approached for their final pitch to investors, Ava felt the weight of anticipation swell in her chest. They were about to present their vision to the world, and everything they had worked for hinged on this moment. The room was filled with sharp suits and eager investors as they entered, the atmosphere thick with tension. Ava felt Nathaniel's presence beside her like a steadying force. Together, they walked to the front, ready to unveil their ideas. When they started presenting, Ava's heart raced, but the familiar excitement rushed back as she spoke passionately about their work. She saw the investors leaning in, intrigued by their vision for the mentorship platform. The room crackled with energy, like electricity in the air. As they concluded, the applause felt like a wave sweeping over them. There was a pregnant pause before a few investors stood up, clapping, eyes sparkling with interest. "Impressive work," one of them said, extending his hand. "We'd like to discuss partnership opportunities." Tears of joy brimmed in Ava's eyes as Nathaniel's grin widened. They had done it. Somehow, against all odds, everything had come together. When they left the meeting, exhilaration coursed through Ava. Nathaniel turned to her, eyes lit up with excitement. "I can't believe it." Together, she emphasized, knowing their success had been born from collaboration and a willingness to listen. Days turned into weeks, and as they continued their work, Ava often felt their bond growing deeper. The night spent crafting proposals turned into conversations about their hopes, fears, and visions for the future. One evening, as the sun set over the city skyline, they stood on the balcony, taking it all in. "What a ride," Nathaniel mused, glancing over at her. "It's amazing how a single moment can change everything," Ava replied, thinking back to the elevator ride that had started it all. "Exactly," he trailed off, a look of wonder crossing his face. She smiled softly, warmth flooding through her. It felt as if something profound had blossomed between them. In the grand tapestry of life, every thread mattered, every interaction echoed with possibilities. "Here's to our partnership then," Ava said, holding up a glass. With laughter in the air, they clinked their glasses together. She could feel the weight of everything they had gone through, the mistakes, the moments of doubt had forged a connection that neither of them had expected. As they stood together, she knew they were just beginning. Whatever lay ahead, whether obstacles or triumphs, she felt ready to face it all. The city twinkled beneath them, a reminder that the world was vast, filled with opportunities just waiting to be discovered. Ava mentally noted one key realization. It all began with a chance encounter, a simple moment in an elevator that led to a partnership, a friendship, and maybe even something more. And she vowed to never let a moment pass her by again without recognizing its potential. The future awaited, and she was thrilled to embrace every second of it. Wait. Ava turned around just as the elevator doors began to close. A man was sprinting toward her, his tie flapping wildly behind him. Without much thought, she pressed the button to keep the doors open, watching as he slipped inside, breathless. "Thanks," he huffed, a touch of desperation in his voice. "I'm Nathaniel." "Ava," she replied, her mind already racing ahead. She was eager to get to the penthouse floor where the board meeting awaited her moment to shine. The city's energy pulsed around her. Opportunity hung in the air like an electric charge. As the elevator hummed its way up, Nathaniel's eyes darted toward the control panel. "I'm trying to reach the penthouse too, but my access card isn't working," he said, frustration creeping into his tone. Ava glanced at him, momentarily distracted from her own thoughts, but there was still that soft, comforting chime announcing they were nearing her destination. "Maybe it's just a glitch," she said, her voice flat. She squinted at the numbers on the screen, counting the floors they ascended. She was already as good as up there. Before he could respond, the elevator chimed again and the doors glided open. She said quickly, stepping out without even waiting for his reply. Ava felt a surge of confidence, ready to face her colleagues who were waiting for her pitch. But as she left, a nagging guilt nestled into the back of her mind. Did she dismiss him too easily? Shaking her head, she brushed it aside. Focus. This meeting was too important. In the conference room, the atmosphere was electric, filled with passionate voices and buzzing excitement. She took her place at the front, the proverbial stage ready for her moment. With every word she spoke, her confidence grew. She spoke about innovation, about transforming their marketing strategy, about the future. The room was captivated. Every nod, every flicker of interest fueled her fire. Ava felt invincible. But still, the corner of her mind wandered back to Nathaniel, anxiously tapping his card. Perhaps he was more than just a man in an elevator, but she shook off the thoughts like water off a duck's back. The meeting ended with applause, the weight of success hovering over her like a warm embrace. As Ava walked back toward the lobby, she felt a pulse of pride. She had made her mark, but that nagging thought about Nathaniel lingered, still echoing in the back of her mind. But then something caught her eye. A digital screen illuminated a list of names, those with access to the penthouse and other private floors. Intrigued, she stepped closer. Her heart raced. Why did that name sound so familiar? A search through her mental files revealed the truth. He was a tech entrepreneur whose innovations had reshaped industries. Panic twisted her stomach. She had brushed off someone who wasn't just another figure on the street. He was someone significant. What had she done? Fear raced through her veins like ice water. What if he reported her? What would that mean for her future in the company? Just then, she spotted Nathaniel once again standing vacantly near the entrance, still looking frustrated and distracted. Stricken with guilt, Ava decided she couldn't leave it like this. She needed to make this right. She rushed toward him, the weight of her anxiety pushing her steps faster. She called out, her voice slicing through the ambient noise of the lobby. He turned, a mixture of surprise and caution crossing his face. "Ava, I just saw your name on the list," she said, breathless. He raised an eyebrow, an amused smile creeping in. "It's all right, it happens." "No," Ava insisted, feeling compelled to clarify. "I shouldn't have dismissed you like that." Nathaniel looked surprised but also curious. "Absolutely," she responded, feeling a newfound sense of urgency in her tone. As they approached the elevator again, Ava felt something shifting in the air. There was an electric charge between them, a sense of possibility blooming. In that moment, she realized how easy it was to overlook someone when consumed by one's own ambitions. Once inside the elevator, she pressed the button for the penthouse, and again the hum of the machine filled the air. She inquired, genuinely curious. Nathaniel visibly relaxed, his face brightening. "I'm working on a platform to connect young professionals with mentors in the industry," he explained. Ava nodded, her initial dismissal of him drifting away like fog. "That sounds incredible. It's so needed." Just as they reached the top floor, Nathaniel looked thoughtful. "I'm glad you're interested." The elevator doors opened, and they stepped into an airy penthouse filled with natural light. The view was breathtaking, the skyline stretching out before them, sparkling under the midday sun. Upon entering, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Nathaniel's team looked eager, some already engaged in deep conversation. "Ava," one of them called. As Nathaniel introduced her to the group, she felt the energy shift. This was different. She was no longer just an outsider waiting nervously for a pitch. She was part of something larger, and it felt empowering. Gathered around the table, they began discussing the platform in earnest. Ava listened intently, absorbing their ideas. Nathaniel spoke passionately, outlining the challenges they faced and the vision they wanted to create. The hours flew by as they bounced ideas off one another, fueling the fire of creativity in the room. "I think we should incorporate features that allow for real interactions, not just superficial connections," Ava suggested, feeling excitement bubble within her. Nathaniel's eyes lit up. "That's a brilliant idea." As discussions continued late into the night, Ava felt a sense of camaraderie growing. She was no longer just a person focused solely on her goals. She was part of a team. The moment she brushed off Nathaniel's complaint didn't matter anymore. This was more significant. But as they neared completion of their brainstorming, one team member broke the momentum. "We need a solid proposal." A wave of anxiety washed over Ava. "We can definitely create something impactful," she said, trying to maintain her confidence. Nathaniel nodded, catching her eye. "Let's do this together." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of collaboration, bonding, and learning from each other. Each late-night meeting transformed into an exploration of ideas, blending their visions into something truly strong. And one evening, as they worked tirelessly on crafting presentations, Ava caught a glimpse of a deeper connection, one that had formed in the unlikeliest of moments. She realized she had genuinely come to admire Nathaniel's dedication, passion, and intellect. "Be still my heart," she thought. Finally, the day came for their big pitch to the investors. The room was filled with an air of expectation as they set up. Ava felt the weight of the moment pressing down, but standing beside Nathaniel gave her strength. They presented with fervor, their combined enthusiasm shining like a beacon as they outlined their project. Investors leaned in, captivated by their vision for connecting experienced mentors with young talent. When they wrapped up, a moment of silence enveloped them, creating an aching anticipation. Then the applause erupted, washing over them in waves of approval. Relief and joy surged through Ava. As they exited, one of the investors approached them with a broad smile. "This is impressive work." Ava's heart soared. They had done it. The path she believed would be littered with obstacles was now filled with possibilities. Weeks turned into months, and as they continued to fine-tune the platform, the bond between Nathaniel and Ava deepened. They became inseparable allies, navigating the challenges of their aspirations while challenging one another to grow. One evening, they finally caught a break, stepping out for a celebratory dinner. They talked and laughed, and as they shared stories, the line between professional and personal blurred. Ava realized how much she cherished his companionship. Nathaniel asked, leaning back in his chair, eyes twinkling. Ava chuckled, feeling warmed by the memory. "Yeah, I brushed off your complaint in the elevator. It's amazing how a moment can change everything," he replied softly, his gaze steady on her. In that moment, Ava felt the stirrings of something deeper. It was no longer just a partnership born of convenience or ambition. It began to feel like something profoundly significant. They had woven their lives together, both personally and professionally. Here's to new beginnings, Ava raised her glass, feeling the weight of her journey behind her. With laughter and clinking glasses, they celebrated the journey, one that had begun with a simple elevator ride and blossomed into an unexpected partnership. Ava felt unrestrained joy as she looked around, realizing that the city skyline wasn't just a backdrop. It was a testament to their hard work, resilience, and the connections that had been formed along the way. Standing at the edge of the balcony later that night, gazing out over the shimmering lights, she felt a sense of purpose. Life was unpredictable, but the journey they had embarked on together was undeniably rewarding. "Whatever happens next, I'm grateful," Nathaniel said, standing beside her, his voice filled with sincerity. "Me too," she replied, her heart swelling. As they stood together, two souls intertwined, she knew they were just getting started. The universe was vast and their story was still unfolding. This chapter in their lives had shifted from a chance encounter to a fulcrum of possibility. Days, months, and years stretched ahead, and Ava was ready to embrace it all. She would never forget the lesson that began with brushing off a complaint, how vital it was to seize every moment and cherish every connection. The city sparkled beneath them, and they were ready to conquer whatever lay ahead, hand in hand. As she smiled at Nathaniel, Ava knew in her heart that together they could transform not just their worlds, but the lives around them. Their journey had only just begun. The elevator door slid open and Ava stepped inside, the familiar rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. Today was a day of opportunity, a day that could change everything for her career. She adjusted her blazer, caught her reflection in the shiny surface, and took a deep breath. But just as she was about to hit the button for the top floor, a voice echoed behind her. She turned to see a man panting slightly, stumbling toward her. His tie was askew and his eyes held a mixture of urgency and hope. "Sure," Ava replied, pressing the button. He slipped inside just in time as the doors began to close. "Thanks, I'm Nathaniel," he said, giving her a quick smile. "Ava," she replied, already shifting her focus back to the control panel. She had a meeting to get to and time was ticking. As the elevator began to ascend, Nathaniel peered at the control panel in disappointment. "I'm trying to get to the penthouse," he said, "but my access card isn't working." Ava felt a flicker of annoyance. "Maybe just try again later," she said, her voice lacking warmth. Her mind was racing with thoughts about her pitch and the impact it would have on her future. "Right, I hope it's just a glitch," Nathaniel replied, his expression dimming. The elevator chimed and the door slid open at the penthouse floor. Ava quickly stepped out, her confidence soaring. She called over her shoulder as the doors closed behind her, but the moment she entered the conference room, a small voice in her head nagged at her. Had she really brushed him off too easily? She shook her head, dismissing the thought, and turned her focus to the crowd of colleagues and executives. The meeting was electric. Ava delivered her presentation with precision and passion. The room hung on her every word, her excitement igniting ideas and sparking conversations. But as she spoke, that flicker of guilt about Nathaniel lingered just beneath the surface, reminding her of the man she had left behind in the elevator. As the meeting ended with enthusiastic applause, she felt victorious. The weight of success washed over her like a warm tide. Yet when she returned to the lobby, the nagging thoughts crept back in. Her eyes caught the glimmer of a digital screen displaying names of individuals with access to the private floors. Intrigued, she stepped closer and scanned the list. Out of nowhere, her heart dropped. The names struck like a bolt of lightning, a revelation that hit her hard. The tech mogul, the innovator whose achievements had shaped the industry. Panic surged through her like a tidal wave. She had brushed off someone significant. If he reported her dismissive attitude to the board, what would that mean for her career? Just then she spotted Nathaniel near the entrance, his brow furrowed, still trying to figure out his access card. The urgency in his demeanor called to her, and a rush of guilt propelled Ava forward. She called out, her voice cutting through the noise of the bustling lobby. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Ava, I saw your name on the list," she said, her heart pounding. "I didn't realize who you were." He studied her for a moment, and then a hint of a smile crossed his face. "It's all right." "No, it's not all right," she insisted. The surprise melted off Nathaniel's features, replaced by curiosity. "Absolutely," she replied, determination flooding her voice. As they walked back to the elevator, Ava felt something new, an electric spark of connection. For the first time, she was genuinely interested in someone else's aspirations, realizing how easy it was to overlook people in the rush of everyday life. Once inside the elevator again, she pressed the button for the penthouse. She asked, eager to learn. Nathaniel relaxed, his eyes brightening. "It's a platform aimed at connecting young professionals with mentors in the industry. We want to bridge the gap between experience and fresh talent." She nodded, her initial judgment of him slipping away. "That sounds incredible." As the elevator doors opened, Nathaniel stepped out first, looking around in awe. The penthouse was stunning, filled with natural light and a panoramic view of the city's skyline. Ava felt a rush of excitement. When they entered, his team was already engaged in lively discussions. She could feel the energy in the room, a mix of anticipation and creativity. As Nathaniel introduced her, she realized her earlier dismissal had transformed into something meaningful. She was now part of a team. Gathered around the conference table, they began brainstorming the details of the platform. Ava listened intently, captivated by the collaborative atmosphere. Nathaniel spoke with passion about the challenges they faced, and slowly she felt the limits of her own self-absorption dissolve. The hours flew by as ideas bounced around the room like popcorn. They discussed the importance of connecting young talent with experienced professionals, and Ava couldn't help but feel alive in this environment. But as they delved deeper into the logistics of their project, someone in the group piped up, "We need a solid proposal." Ava's heart raced at the implication. "I can help with that," she offered, her voice brimming with confidence. Nathaniel matched her gaze, a fire igniting in his eyes. "I'd love to collaborate." They stayed late into the night, fueled by passion and caffeine, crafting the proposal that would potentially change their paths. Ava felt invigorated, realizing how much she had gained from taking the time to connect with Nathaniel. Weeks turned into a productive blur of meetings, drafting, and brainstorming. Their connection deepened not only professionally but personally. They shared stories, aspirations, and vulnerabilities, forging a bond that felt genuine and real. On one particularly late night, as they sat together surrounded by notes and ideas, Nathaniel leaned back in his chair. "You know, I really appreciate your willingness to help me earlier." "I get it," Ava replied thoughtfully. "Sometimes we get so focused on our goals that we forget the people around us." In that moment, an understanding passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of their journey. The line between professional and personal began to blur, revealing a depth neither of them had anticipated. The day of the big pitch arrived, and Ava felt the thrill and anxiety intertwining in her stomach. The conference room buzzed with anticipation, rows of eyes focused on her and Nathaniel as they prepared to present their ideas. As they stood at the front, Ava glanced at Nathaniel, who nodded reassuringly. Together, they began their presentation, weaving together a narrative that showcased their vision for the mentorship platform. Every word they spoke drew the investors in closer. Ava felt like she was swaying the room, the energy rising with every point made. After clinching the final slide, they paused as the silence enveloped the room. Then, out of nowhere, applause erupted. Relief washed over Ava as she shared a glance with Nathaniel, excitement bubbling between them. They had done it. Following their presentation, one of the investors walked over, a broad smile on his face. "Impressive work, both of you." Ava's heart soared. They had taken a risk together, and it had paid off. After the meeting, as the excitement settled around them, Nathaniel turned with a look of pure joy. "I can't believe it." Together, Ava emphasized, filled with gratitude. She knew that her initial misjudgment of him had led them both down an unexpected path, a journey filled with connections and opportunities. As weeks passed, their bond flourished even further. They spent time outside of work, sharing meals and diving deeper into their conversations. Every moment felt like a new layer unfolding, revealing the intricacies of their personalities. One evening, they found themselves on a rooftop terrace, the city skyline serving as a stunning backdrop. The sun dipped low in the sky, painting the horizon in orange and pink hues. Ava asked, laughter dancing in her voice. "Yeah," Nathaniel chuckled, shaking his head. "It is," Ava replied, her expression softening. "I've learned so much from you." "Me too," he replied, sincerity filling his gaze. "But it brought us here, didn't it?" As the sun set completely, the lights of the city flickered on, and Ava felt a warmth inside her heart. Their partnership and possibly even a budding friendship had grown from the simplest circumstances. And as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Ava couldn't shake the feeling that they were building something truly special, a blend of ambition, connection, and perhaps something deeper. When Nathaniel leaned in, gazing out at the skyline, she felt a rush of gratitude intertwined with excitement. Their journey had begun with a misstep, but now it felt like a powerful force propelling them forward. "You know, this world is vast, but it's the connections we make that shape our futures," Ava said softly, looking at Nathaniel. "Absolutely," he replied, his eyes reflecting the city lights. As she stood next to him, she realized how each moment, each encounter had led them to this point. What had started with brushing off a complaint transformed into a partnership, a friendship. And perhaps more, Ava knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges and triumphs, but she was ready to embrace it all. After all, success wasn't just about the individual, it was about the connections that wove through every aspect of life. And as they stood side by side, with the city shimmering below and the horizon stretching far and wide, Ava smiled. Their journey had only just begun, and the possibilities ahead were endless. The elevator ride that once seemed so trivial had turned into a transformative lift, spiraling them into a future neither of them could have predicted. "Excuse me," the elevator door slid half shut, but Ava's finger was already poised over the button to close them completely. She hesitated for just a moment, gazing at the rushing figure, a man in a wrinkled suit, his tie flapping behind him like a flag of urgency. Something about his frantic energy intrigued her, but her own ambitions tugged at her attention. She said, pressing the button to reopen the doors just in time. He slipped inside, breathless and visibly relieved. Thanks, I'm Nathaniel, he said, offering her a quick but genuine smile. Ava, she replied, already diverting her focus to the elevator panel. She had a pitch to prepare, a golden opportunity waiting for her at the top floor. As the elevator hummed upward, Nathaniel leaned against the wall. I was supposed to be in this meeting on the penthouse floor, but my access card isn't working, he said, leaning forward as frustration creased his brow. Maybe it's just a glitch, Ava said, her voice lacking warmth. Her mind raced ahead to her goals, her dreams, her best-case scenarios. I hope so, Nathaniel murmured, clearly annoyed. Before she could show a hint of sympathy, the elevator door slid open and Ava stepped out, her focus fully on the meeting ahead. She called back, dismissing his situation as she disappeared down the corridor. Inside the conference room, the energy crackled like an electric storm. Colleagues surrounded the table, buzzing with excitement, their eyes glinting with ambition. Ava took a breath, ready to captivate them with her ideas. She couldn't afford to think about Nathaniel any longer. The meeting unfolded in a whirlwind of discussion and applause. Ava dominated the room, her words painting pictures of innovation and success, stirring imaginations, generating traffic in the minds of her colleagues. For a moment she felt untouchable, yet beneath the roar of approval, a whisper of guilt nestled in her mind. Did she really brush off that man so easily? She quickly shook it away, immersing herself in the moment. Then, after what felt like seconds but were really hours, the meeting ended. With a triumphant smile plastered across her face, she stepped into the lobby, a sense of victory flooding her senses. The world was full of possibilities, but as she walked back, a flicker of curiosity caught her eye, a digital display showing names of individuals granted access to the private floors. Her breath caught. The realization hit her like a punch: Nathaniel Shaw. She rummaged through her memories, recognizing the name from business articles, captivating headlines. He was a tech entrepreneur with a reputation for revolutionizing industries. Panic swirled through her. What had she done? She had dismissed someone significant, someone who held great influence. What if he reported her lack of professionalism? What would that mean for her future? Just then she caught sight of him near the entrance, still fiddling with his access card, frustration etched on his face. Something in her wanted to make it right. With a surge of determination, she pushed through the crowd, heading straight for him. She called out, her voice cutting through the noise. He turned, surprise flickering in his eyes. Ava, I just saw your name on the list, she said, urgency tightened around her heart. I didn't realize who you were. You really didn't have to come back, Nathaniel replied, a hint of a smile creeping onto his face. No, it's not okay. If you're trying to reach the penthouse, I can help you, Ava said, desperation edging into her tone. He considered her for a moment, clearly intrigued. Absolutely, come on, I can't let you miss out on something important, she insisted. They rushed back to the elevator, and as the doors closed again, Ava felt an unexpected thrill of connection. She realized how easy it was to overlook someone after brushing them aside. She inquired as they rode up once more. Nathaniel's enthusiasm shifted the atmosphere. It's a mentorship platform aimed at connecting young professionals with experienced mentors, exclaimed, her interest piquing. As they stepped out on the penthouse floor, her heart raced at the stunning view, the sprawling city below shimmering in the daylight. She could feel a rush of hope, a sense that perhaps this encounter could lead to more than just a chance meeting. Nathaniel's team was already gathered in an open space, energy bouncing between them like electricity. One of them exclaimed as Nathaniel introduced her. The warm welcome wrapped around her, washing away her earlier insecurities. Here she was no longer an outsider. Here she was part of a significant collaboration. They quickly dived into discussions about the platform, with Nathaniel outlining the challenges they faced. Ava listened intently, captivated by his passion. Ideas swirled around the room, bouncing off walls, igniting sparks of creativity. Why not incorporate elements that encourage real engagement? We could gamify the interaction, Ava suggested, feeling a thrill of excitement. Nathaniel's eyes lit up. That's a brilliant idea. The energy in the room transformed. Conversation flowed like a river, their individual ideas coalescing into a unified vision. Hours melted away, the group leaning into each other's strengths, their collaboration invigorating. But just as they began to wrap up, one team member mentioned, "We need a solid proposal for the investors." A wave of urgency swept over Ava. "I can help with that," she said, raising her hand, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Nathaniel met her gaze, the anticipation mirrored in his eyes. "I like it." They tackled the project with fervor, transforming ideas into action. Late-night sessions filled with laughter, coffee, and endless brainstorming turned into a newfound partnership. The days rolled into weeks, and as their project grew, so did their connection. Dining out after meetings, sharing stories and challenges made them feel like more than just colleagues. Each interaction deepened their bond. One evening, they found themselves at a local cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee enveloping them. "You know," Ava said, her eyes shining with sincerity, "I can't believe how quickly things have changed. If I hadn't brushed you off that day." He chuckled, leaning closer. Ava smiled, realizing how true that was. The spark between them began to feel like a flame, powerful and undeniable. Days passed, and the big pitch day for investors loomed near. The room where they would present hung heavy with anticipation. Ava felt the weight of the moment. She could practically taste the electric energy mixed with anxiety. As they prepared, Nathaniel nudged her gently. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, a mix of nerves and excitement fluttering in her stomach. When they stepped up to present, the anticipation in the room coiled tight. As they spoke passionately about their project, Ava felt the pulse of connection running through her. Every word felt like destiny drawing them closer. Then, as they concluded, a hush descended, the weight of their presentation looming in the air. Suddenly, applause broke out, warm and encouraging. Ava's heart swelled as she shared an exhilarated glance with Nathaniel. They had done it. One of the investors stood and walked toward them, a thoughtful expression on his face. Impressive work today. Joy and relief washed over Ava. They had taken a major step forward. But as they left the conference room, something unexpected happened. Nathaniel paused, turning to Ava, his expression more serious. A rush of emotion swirled inside her. For a moment, their eyes locked, and she felt something shift like a door creaking open on new possibilities. She wanted to say more, to bridge the gap of unspoken feelings, but the moment slipped away as quickly as it arrived. Weeks turned into whirlwind days filled with plans and revisions for their project. The connection between them grew deeper, more intimate, each late-night discussion revealing layers of themselves. One evening, they went for a walk after dinner, breathing in the crisp air as they explored the city's quiet corners. Ava asked, gazing up at the stars dotting the night sky. "Sometimes it takes the smallest moments to open the biggest doors," Nathaniel replied, his voice earnest. Suddenly, Ava halted, uncertainty flooding through her. Nathaniel eyed, but before she could finish, her phone vibrated with a message, breaking the moment. An urgent email notification blinked on the screen. Confusion washed over her as she read it, her heart racing. "This can't be right," she said, her voice straining as she scrolled. Nathaniel asked, concern shadowing his features. Ava took a deep breath, her mind racing. "We need to go back to the office." Nathaniel's eyebrows knitted together as they turned to head back. "There are questions about the investor pitch, something about conflicting interests," she replied, her voice faltering. The atmosphere around them shifted as they quickened their pace. The excitement of their recent triumph dimmed, replaced by the weight of uncertainty. Everything they had worked for was hanging in a delicate balance, teetering on a knife's edge. As they reached the building, the bright lights felt unwelcoming now, casting eerie shadows. Ava's heart hammered in her chest. Nathaniel remained silent, but Ava could see the storm brewing in his eyes. They raced upstairs, urgency propelling them forward, the adrenaline heightening with each step. When they arrived at the conference room, the tension was palpable. Colleagues were gathered, deep in conversation. Ava could sense the undercurrents of discontent, confusion, frustration. She demanded, stepping into the room. One of her colleagues turned, eyeing her with concern. "There's been some upheaval." Ava felt her stomach drop. "Someone's flagged that your partnership with Nathaniel might pose ethical concerns," he explained, the words like stones being thrown at her ambitions. Ava turned to Nathaniel, panic spreading through her. "They can't do this." Nathaniel clenched his jaw, trying to maintain composure. "Let's address the concerns head-on." But just then the door swung open and a figure stepped inside. A board member Ava recognized, his expression stern. "We need to discuss this immediately." A drop of dread settled in the pit of her stomach. They were on the brink of losing everything. Tension crackled in the air as Ava exchanged a worried glance with Nathaniel, the single moment of chance that had brought them together now hanging in desperate uncertainty. What would happen next? Would their collaboration stand, or would the shadows of doubt tear them apart? Ava couldn't shake the feeling that the true battle was just beginning. In a world driven by ambition, the winds were shifting, and nothing was guaranteed.